Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As usual, I'm your host, William Fletcher, and I'm joined this week by a returning guest, Dylan, joining me this week.
Good evening, everybody. Happy to be here.
And for this week's episode, we are going to be looking at The Mummy. We're not going to be looking at like every Mummy film that's been made because there's like way too many of them to try and talk about. Just too many of those films. So we're mainly going to be talking about the 1932 sort of classic Universal monster mummy film. We're going to talk about the Brendan Fraser mummy films, and we're also going to quickly touch on the Tom Cruise 2017 mummy film, although I have seen that and Dylan hasn't, so
Yeah,
I
I
don't know how
skipped.
much.
I
Yeah.
did skip that one. I have to admit. The other 99, because I hadn't seen the Brendan Fraser Mummy, which is absurd because it's sort of my era of film, and yeah, it I watched both of them for the first time, and a Tom Cruise Mummy could not make the cut of watching films quickly.
Um, yeah, and this is an episode you said you wanted to do. So just was there any sort of particular reason you want? Because you saying that you've never seen the Brendan Fraser Mummy. It kind of is a bit of a surprise to me because I figured the reason you wanted to talk about the Mummy films is because you're a fan of the Brendan Fraser ones, like you grew up with them.
No, I do like Brendan Fraser quite a lot. I grew up with George of the Jungle, and I really like The
Okay.
Whale, and pretty much all of his recent work
Mm,
has been really, really good. But I'm also a history nerd. It's part of my education major is history.
right.
So kind of anything history. We should do an apocalypto episode, but that's off topic. But yeah, I mainly wanted to do it as an excuse to watch them, especially the 32 film because not I'm not going to LARP and say that I'm artsy enough to go watch a film from the 30s on my own accord, so it was a good excuse to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I will be honest, I don't have a whole lot to say on the 30s Mummy film because it's a 73-minute film, so there's like really not much to it. And to be honest, most of like the Universal monster films from the 30s aren't, of the ones I've seen. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a decent number of them. They're not particularly great.
Yeah, and I can't say I've watched pretty much any other Hammer horrors, which is pretty sinful of me, to be frankly honest. But I don't know. It had a certain charm to it. I enjoyed, especially the visual aspects of it. I thought the set design and stuff was really cool. I thought Karloff did a good job. Like he was
Mm,
menacing. It could have been a lot goofier. Like on paper, I should have like burst out laughing at like those
mm,
close-up shots of his reflecting eyes. But the fact that they pulled it off, was pretty impressive. But yeah, I liked a
mm.
few aspects of it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Boris Karloff, who is sort of one of the names that's sort of synonymous with that period of monster films. Because he did that, and he was also Frankenstein's monster as well. So he's sort of one of those names that's in and amongst the people who sort of started that. And I didn't dislike the film by like any means. I didn't think it was a particularly bad film. It was nice again to watch a film that's under 2 hours because I'm so used to films now being 2.5 hours long for no reason, and it's really annoying sometimes. Um,
Although in saying that, because I completely agree, but it was funny how suddenly it ended. Like the third act like
yeah,
wraps up and then it's just a hard cut to like the end, which is probably more like a thing of the times. But yeah, I did find it like ended almost abruptly. That's one thing I did laugh
yeah,
at was when it cut to just the end after like yeah, the resolution.
yeah. No, that's very common in older films. Is they'll just kind of end very suddenly. There's no like, there's no like build up to them ending. They just sort of end.
On it, sort of looking at the 99 Mummy, I did find that the kind of motivations between each party was sort of indicative of the times, if that makes any sense. Like they were very
Mhm,
much a group of scientists in the
mhm,
30s film, and aside from the character of Evelyn in the 99 Mummy, the most of the characters are more like treasure or religious, like driven kind of thing.
mhm,
So I thought that was sort of interesting.
mhm.
And especially because Egyptology was like a huge craze. Like it was almost a meme. Like in England around sort of it had a few like eras where Egyptology was like quite popular and a really big fad. So I think it sort of feeds into that in the science angle of the 30s film as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say on the '30s film. I don't know if there's, like, anything you really wanted to touch on with it, or it's I think it's more of an interesting, like, cultural artifact, rather than, like, a particularly great film.
Yeah, I
Um,
do think the only thing I'd really like call it out for it visually is how striking the shadow work and like the set was and the sort of horror looks in black and white. It's a good argument for shooting horror and stuff in black and white because it did look really striking. Even though,
yeah.
you know, it's obviously aged. It's almost a 100-year-old film.
Yeah,
But
but
the
there's you could have for me, I sort of it's charming almost because it's like, "Oh, look at that," you know? It's not like it doesn't detract from the film because you what I have to watch it with the context of, like, this was a 1932 film, like, it's obviously not gonna compare to, like, modern day, like, CGI and effects, you know?
Yeah, although the first shot where Helen is introduced and she's looking out the window at the pyramids. I don't know if it was a matte painting or if they had a model. They did do some models, especially the title card was great. It had the mummy text on a pyramid that was a model pyramid, and they obviously had the light thrown on it because it had shadows. It just looked really good. But that shot of Helen looking at the pyramids looked really good. It
Mm.
was actually, yeah, very pretty. But yes, let's talk about the 99 Mummy
Yeah. Do you
because
wanna put a
there's a
rating on the '30s one quickly, or if you want to, if you feel like there's isn't something there for you to put a rating on?
honestly, out of five, I'd probably have to give it like 3.5 or 4 out of 5, purely because I actually really liked the aesthetic of it. I
Mhm.
really enjoyed how it looked. Like,
Yeah.
even beyond being a cultural artifact, like it has a sort of beauty to it that I think is, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't really emulate today, which I guess
Mm.
is me just saying it's a cultural artifact and I'm a sentimental
Yeah.
bastard. But yeah, I'll give it 3.5 or 4 stars.
Yeah. I will say one thing I liked is the mummy sort of thinks that this woman is like his, like, I guess, sort of his princess almost, like his from his time period. Like she looks like this old princess that he used to be with or whatever. I think that's like an interesting idea. They don't really do a whole lot with it though, but again, it's like this is a 1932 film. I'm not gonna be like particularly upset if it doesn't like conform and isn't completely, like related to sort of current day 2026 films. Like they're still learning what films were, and figuring them out.
Yeah, well,
Um,
speaking of
but yeah, I give it
actual
like a
Imon,
6 out of 10. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, and speaking of his character too, I did like in the 30s film that he was a thinking kind of almost like devilish, like
Mm,
Randall Flagg, Nyarlathotep sort of character. You know what I mean? Like he was a calculating, like he wasn't just like a screaming monster. Sort of thing,
mm,
which again is very similar to his character in the 99 film. But I
mhm.
did like that he was sort of like, yeah, spooky and powerful and moved like, and sort of had the aura of an Egyptian aristocrat, not so
Mhm,
much a monster, if that made
mhm.
sense. I thought that was that elevated it a lot. If he was just like a crappy monster, it would have easily been like a two
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
five film.
but yeah, to move on to the Brendan Fraser 1999 film. Before we started recording, you told me to pull up a quote from Roger Ebert, um, for some reason that I will let you go into now because you mentioned it before we started, so I'll let you talk about it.
Oh, I think he just sums up why this kind of movie is so important. Um, he there is hardly. I'm just going to quote it word for word, so bear with me
Mhm.
here. This is his review of it from May 7th, 1999. There is hardly a thing I can say in its favor, except that I was cheered by nearly every minute of it. I cannot argue for the script, the direction, the acting, or even the mummy, but I can say that I was not bored, and sometimes I was unreasonably pleased. There is a little immaturity stuck away in the crannies of even the most judicious of us, and we should treasure it. Which really just sums up that film, I think.
I think sometimes people sort of get too stuck in this idea of like what they're allowed to like, and like what is like cinema, like because there are films that I will concede aren't like particularly good films, but I enjoyed watching.
Yeah, I don't think he was too harsh in saying that he couldn't argue for the script or the direction or the acting because, like, it's a 1999 blockbuster and it's not
Mm,
perfect, but I enjoyed a lot of it, even sort of just going chronologically through the film. The
mm.
opening sequence is a fantastic bit of action. Yeah, in particular, like this big sort of battle in the desert with, yeah, horses and men shooting. Brendan Fraser has two pistols. It's fantastic.
There's certainly I will say this is definitely I'd say it's a cult favorite. I don't like I think it's liked by a lot of people, but I don't think but it's not like a universal like considered like a classic. I would say it's like a cult favorite.
Which, yeah, it very much deserves as well. Like, I think it earns that status. Like, it is good. Like, ultimately, the set design, the costuming, like the plot, sort of mumbles along. But even I didn't find the exposition too bad. Which is usually where movies like this fall apart from me, is how awful the exposition dialogue is. And I didn't find it too egregious, which is a big point in its favor, to be honest.
Yeah, exposition a lot of the time is just bad writing. Like it's like it's hard to make exposition sound good or natural. Like it's there is a way to do like I've seen tons of films where they do exposition and it works, and there are other times where I see exposition and I'm like, man, like you just like, man, they don't know what they made, so they're just trying to place all of this exposition on top of it all just so that like they can explain it all to you. And I feel like a lot of the time exposition, again, for story purposes, like when you're like if when you're and I mean like when you're doing exposition to essentially tell the story, like a big example for me is Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner with the Harrison Ford like voiceover and stuff. Like that
I
feels
haven't
like
even watched it. I haven't even watched it with the voiceover. I couldn't do it. That's not what God intended. I'm not. Yeah, I
yeah,
have not. I've only watched the director's cut.
yeah. I mean, I'm not like a big fan of Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner is a very interesting film in like it's very popular, but also it's like a cult favorite. Like the Blade Runner, I find to be a very interesting film. Like I think there's some great ideas in it. I also think people act like it's so good, and then it's that thing of like I feel like there's people who can't explain why it's good. Like there are films like that where people I feel like people can't explain why they're good. Um,
But no, if
but
we talk about Blade Runner too much, we'll get off topic. Though I will
yeah,
say to anybody listening to this, read the book. The book is incredible. It's actually
I have a
so
copy
good.
of the book literally right on my desk here. I've been meaning to read it for ages. I've got a copy right here that
I
I need to
loved it.
read.
It's a
Uh,
bit. it's a bit rough. It's a bit of a rough read, but it's good. It's seriously good.
Yeah.
It's sci-fi Steinbeck is sort of the best way that I describe it. But anyway, we're off topic.
Oh, we're off topic.
The
Yeah, the
opening
Mummy.
the
Yeah,
yeah, the opening battle, I really want to spend just 30 more seconds on that because it is
yeah.
good. It is a seriously well choreographed like action
Mm.
scene. And as I was watching it too, it's almost a mini hero's journey. Like there's plot beats within this little, is it like a what, 5-10 minute sequence? It goes pretty
Yeah,
long.
I've just
Uh,
got the sequence up here. I've just found it on YouTube. It's like this video's 5.5 minutes long, so I'd assume
Yeah, and they
that.
cram a lot in. And it sort of reminded me, it's why I fell in love with the movie from that scene, to be frankly honest, purely because it reminded me of like Lawrence of Arabia. It even, this is a weird comparison to make, but this whole film reminded me a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean, like the first one, and the
Yeah,
first Harry Potter movie, especially the score and the sort of silliness of it. It's a very like, I know it says 1999, but it feels like a very early 2000s film, if that makes any
yeah.
sense.
I
Um,
I was with you on the Pirates of the Caribbean comparison. I'm not too sure about the Harry Potter one, to be honest.
oh, just the
Honestly,
score,
the
just the
score,
score.
just the scores. Okay,
Yeah, just the score.
yeah, I can go
Especially
with that.
the
Yeah,
scene, and some of the humor in it. Like that scene where Evelyn, knocks all the shelves over in the library specifically, and all the sort of museum stuff. I know they're completely different films. I know it's a wild comparison to make, and I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely the score and some of the humor of it, and just yeah, the whole vibe has like this sort of early 2000s like movie magic kind of vibe that yeah, you can see why people like it so much.
Yeah. No, I think this is the kind of like movie that certain people say like this is like what modern like sort of blockbustery films aren't anymore. That's it's very much a harks back to yeah this sort of period where and I think there's a good blockbuster film still being made. And I think that it sounds like I might be a bit more negative about this film than you. Not that I disliked it per se, but I think that this is a film that, for a lot of people, people love because it's like a childhood favorite of theirs that they grew up watching. And not to say that I'm like immune to that. Like there are films that I feel like I saw as a kid that I still really like, even if they're not like actually that good. Um, but I think that it's I wasn't remotely bored by any of it. And this is a 2 hour film. Like that's a long
Yeah, its
time for like
pacing
this
was
kind.
good.
Yeah, for this kind of film as well to be like 2 hours. That could very easily get a bit like okay, we can move it along here. But I wasn't particularly bothered by the runtime. It's sort of I don't know. I don't want to say because this is just going to sound very snobby of me, but I feel like if I'd seen this as a kid and I'd sort of grown up watching it, I might have liked it more. But also maybe that's just me because you said you only watched it like very recently and you really enjoyed it. So maybe I'm just like imagining.
No,
Maybe I'm just making
I think the
assumptions.
reason I no, I like I will admit that it's not like there are definitely some problems with it. I think just on a sort of personally for me, like the aesthetics, the sort of weird horror elements of
Mm,
it, that were done really well. It just sort of and the period sort of historical setting of it,
mm,
and they do a good job. A lot of the practical sets, they had a proper chariot. Oh,
mm.
bless them. And that's a lot of mucking around, man. They didn't have to do that, but they had for the funeral procession, I believe it was. I have it in my notes, but yeah, even just stuff like that. I just love seeing that kind of stuff on screen. So I'm very biased towards this film, I have
Yeah,
to admit.
I will say I noticed with this one, and I did watch the second one, The Mummy Returns. I did watch that. I had time to watch that one. Um, this is very very apparent in The Mummy Returns. Because towards the end of that film, there's a big CGI monster, and it just looks so terrible compared to because it's on like a practical live action set, like a real set, and then you just throw this big CGI Dwayne Johnson in there, and it doesn't look good at all. So I will
Oh, The
admit,
Rock is the villain
yeah,
in the sequel. Oh shit.
yeah, this is early Rock as well. Like this is like what where he broke into Hollywood. Um, but he's this big CGI uh like scorpion creature. I'll send you a picture of this now so you can see what
Oh,
this looks
please do. I
like.
gotta see this. Yeah.
Um,
But
but
speaking of
I
the
would
CGI though,
mm,
I do want to say most of the effects looked good. But some of
mm,
them, especially the sort of, for lack of a better term, soul fog around
mm,
the pool in some of the scenes, didn't look great. But I thought Imhotep looked really good. I thought most of his stuff looked pretty good. It kind of reminded me of the Scooby Doo film, which came out, I think, after this. And
I
the
think it did,
zombies
yeah.
in that looked worse than he
Mm,
did. I think he looked quite good for the time and everything. And especially when he was sort of halfway transformed, I thought they actually pulled off that like jaw and mouth pretty well. I thought it looked good. Oh my
yeah,
God,
like
look at The Rock.
it's oh my god, it's
He looks like a
incredibly
Spy Kids monster. You know,
yeah,
do you know
no,
what I mean by that?
yeah, no, it's absolutely terrible. Maybe the worst CGI I think I've ever seen in anything. Like, and I don't say that lightly. Like, it is really
He looks like a Dark Souls boss. I'm keeping myself mute because I'm just laughing. It's too good.
it's yeah, no, it's if you search up like terrible CGI, that's like one of the first things that pops up. Like, it's that you've got like Henry Cavill in Justice League when they CGI'd his mustache off. There's like the original Sonic before they changed that for the 2020 film. There's Cats, the 2019. Like this is one of the biggest examples of like bad CGI.
Oh
But
man, and like honestly, that's probably and that it's yes, it's good to have this to look at because a lot of the practical stuff that they did was very good, and then the CGI
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that they did because it was so practically based. Like I don't think they would have tried anything that ambitious in the first film.
I wouldn't say so. I like beyond like the sort of like almost yeah, zombie like the creatures. Like I get why you try and do that with CGI because there's sort of like I'm just looked up effects in the Mummy and there's like yeah I don't remember the name but he's like the sort of his yeah I don't know how to describe him
Yeah,
but yeah,
Imhotep.
Imhotep
The
yeah
yeah. Yeah, he looked great, and the actor who played him, whose name I looked up but didn't write down, did a great job too. I did look up, and they did consult historians so that the
mm,
Egyptian that they were speaking was actually close to, as close as we can get to ancient Egyptian, because it's not the same as the language, like what we would think of as Egyptian and Arabian today. So it's very cool that they did that. I always love when they actually consult a goddamn historian when they're making one of these movies, even if it is like a magic movie, a fantasy adventure movie. Still talk to a historian. They got to get paid somehow.
yeah I mean to talk about the cast a little bit more I mean yeah we've got Brendan Fraser leading uh this was sort of yeah peak Brendan Fraser. This was when he was a real big deal, sort of late 90s, early 2000s. He was yeah a very big deal, big star before everything sort of for him sort of you know I guess essentially getting blacklisted. Unfortunately for him, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean you were just telling me yeah you were saying sort of earlier that you're a big fan of Brendan Fraser.
In particular, just George of the Jungle, like that was one of those like I had that movie on VHS as a kid, sort of thing. Like it was an on repeat sort of movie, and then I saw him in The Whale, uh, recently, however long ago that came out now, like 2, 3 years ago, and he
Yeah,
was so
that's
good
yeah,
in that.
2022. That yeah,
Yeah, yeah, he was ludicrously good in that. And there's that new movie where he's playing a rental man in Japan.
yeah,
Uh,
Rental Family. I haven't seen that, but I
yeah,
think people generally liked it.
yeah, I'll watch it when it's yeah, I'll watch it at some point. It does because yeah, he's always good. He's always good.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean this is yeah, I mean he won the Oscar for The Whale, for best actor.
Yeah, that's right. He did. Yeah, I was wondering if he did. No, he definitely did. Yeah.
Um, but I mean, yeah, he has. I don't know for me if I'd say he's like a massive, amazing actor, but I think he has that sort of leading man sort of charisma that you sort of. Like I've said this before. There's certain like actors where they just sort of have a leading star like quality, and it's hard to explain what it is or like to define it. It's just like some actors just have that and some just don't, but it's like I don't know how to explain it or describe like what it is an actor has that gives them that.
Yeah, and for Fraser in particular, like in this, and in George of the Jungle, it is especially like, yeah, he has to sort of be an action hero, right?
Yeah, this
And
isn't
I
like
do
an
like,
acting
and I,
showcase. It's yeah.
and I do like that he's just like an Indiana Jones-esque action hero, and it's almost naively happy-go-lucky compared to like was the 2019 Mummy like grim, was the hero suffering like internal conflict and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm getting at here?
The Tom Cruise Mummy is not fun. I'll say that. It's
No fun
very
allowed.
it's very dry. It's very like there's no color to it. There's no like it's a very gray movie, and I think this is just a symptom of films nowadays where they just all have to be gray and there's no color and there's no personality to the cinematography. It's all just grays and browns, and it's just not it like. And I think it's just yeah. No, I will say films nowadays they don't look as good. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of like main like big budget films, very flat. I mean, it's probably partly down because they're not shot on film anymore. They're all shot on like digital cameras. Um,
Oh, don't get me started. But yeah, the
you're a big
even
yeah a big fan of film cameras. You got a little like yeah film for those of you listening, I've been out with Dylan once. We went to see a movie together, and he had like yeah a film camera with him, and he took like and we did like a production together, and he just yeah, had a film camera just going around just taking how like pictures of while we were like shooting basically and getting so you're a big proponent of like uh film and film cameras. Yeah, I will say that this is there's a lot of personality to what this film is doing. Like it's not it's very there's lots there's yeah color, there's personality to it. It's not just oh here's some grays and browns and you know which a lot of
well, yeah,
films
one
do unfortunately. Yeah.
and one like note that I've got here, there's a scene sort of towards the end, once all of the magic has gotten out, it's all getting a bit kaput, where Brendan Fraser says, "We've got problems," and then they turn around and look out the window, and it's literally Armageddon. Like there is meteorites like flying from the sky and hitting
Mhm.
the pyramids. Um, there's like a big eclipse and stuff like that, and it's colorful. Like the meteorites are a bright red. It's yeah, it looked quite good.
Yeah, no, it's I will say like as much as like I don't dislike the film, but like there is lots of personality to it. And I definitely can see how like it hits for like a certain person, and I'm not that person, but I can see how someone can watch and be like, oh yeah, that was really good, and that have a lot of fun with it. But I think that yeah, I mean we mentioned Brendan Fraser, obviously. Rachel Weisz is in it again. I think this was I feel like she must have been in things before, but I feel like this was where she sort of broke America. She hadn't really done a whole lot before this of like note. I feel like this was probably the thing that made, certainly in America, this was like what got her noticed. Um,
Yeah, I do think that's right. And they were good. They had good chemistry. Like obviously the relationship is just clunky. I don't get why we feel the need to throw romances into adventure movies. You know, like well, I do get the need and I do get it from like a marketing perspective and yada yada yada. And it wasn't bad, but yeah, and she was great. She was actually really great. And I do think her character did have a lot of like autonomy. I do think that she was definitely not just like a fridge or like a set dressing or anything like that. Like I do think she was
yeah.
actually like
Oh,
a
yeah.
pretty good character
The amount of
for
films from
1999.
1990, yeah, the amount of films from like this period where female characters are just like they aren't characters. They are just there to die or to wear little clothes. Like that's just what like you know that's all female characters were in like this period. So having her being like competent and like being good at shit was like, oh wow, that's like not the done thing. John Hannah, who is the comic relief, he's the her brother. But I actually thought he was really solid. I really liked him there as because you always need the I mean, to be fair, Brendan Fraser does have a bit of comic relief to him. Even like he's the lead and everything, but John Hannah is like the true comic relief of the film.
And in speaking of John Hannah, pretty much all the supporting cast I thought did a really good job. I loved the inclusion of cowboys. It reminded me, I don't know if you've read Dracula, but the fact that there's a
Again, that's
cowboy.
another book on my desk that I need to read because it's Dracula. It's
Well,
like
soft spoilers for Dracula. There's a cowboy in it, and I just love cowboys in like outlandish settings, like more so than just the Wild West.
yeah,
Cowboys in the desert in Egypt, fantastic, excellent, and they
like
behave like cowboys as
yeah.
well.
Uh,
I have a note here that they literally open fire on unarmed lepers at one point, which they do. So yeah, all the supporting cast is quite good.
Arnold
Vosloo?
Vosloo. I'm gonna assume that's probably right. I mean, probably possibly very wrong, but he as the villain, he's very much scene chewing villain. Like every scene, he's just sort of chewing all of the scenery and just sort of going for it.
And
Just
also the Egyptian dialogue sounded really naturalistic as well, which you've got to give both him and oh, I've forgotten the actress's name who plays Evelyn. Did a very good job as
Rachel
well of
Weisz.
yeah, Vice, sorry. Yeah, she did a great job. They both did a really good job of speaking Egyptian, which I think really sells it. It's very
Mm,
easy to put not even a historical language, but even a fantasy language in a film, and it just sounds clunky and weird. Like
mm,
I love Star Trek a lot,
mm.
but Klingon sounds weird. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
like Tolkien's Elvish, where it was written by a linguist. And I think that,
Mm,
yeah, the Egyptian dialogue in here is good. And yeah, Vosloo does a great, he eats the roll up. He really does. And again, he is silly too. Like, there's points where he's like just shrieking into the sky and then his face comes up in
uh,
sand and on paper it should look you'd laugh at
yeah.
it. Like I don't even think that I think a director in this day and age, if someone even did that much of a performance, to a certain extent would be like, hey, like tone that down a little bit, but it all fits, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
part of the
no,
reason it's
there's
so good.
yeah, there's a bit in the second one where he controls basically water, and his face is like in this massive like tidal wave that's like chasing after the characters in like a hot air balloon. Like, and his face is like front and center, like screaming as he's like as the water's like chasing them down this like ravine almost. It's insane.
Whereas in comparison to this film, which had I really enjoyed the scene with the dogfighter plane, the sort of World War I aeroplane, going through the desert. I thought the sandstorms and everything looked pretty good as well. I didn't
Mm,
think that looked egregiously bad. I
yeah,
think it was more the water and the fog that didn't quite
yeah.
hold up.
I think part of VFX and like CGI, I think part of the problem with certainly from this period is it looks the worst when it interacts with like real people, like with like actual actors. Like that's where I think it looks the worst, because you're comparing something that isn't real to something that is real, and then so it doesn't look as tangible. Um, which I think is sort of it's that's the case some of the time, but I think overall, like, it's not like, yeah, completely terrible. I think overall it looks good. It's, I mean, it's better than some of the CGI we're getting nowadays, which is not what should be happening. Honestly, I don't know why CGI is getting worse, but it is, and it's very confusing to me, like how that
Because people are
happens.
overworked with crappy deadlines, and yeah, there's a lot of reasons for it, and it all
Yeah,
sucks.
it does
But
suck.
I have been glazing this movie a bit. I will have a cinema sins moment and call out probably the biggest plot hole, is that the faction that's task it is to protect, to keep Imhotep sealed and whatever. They straight up have like two opportunities to just kill everyone who are trying to free him, and they don't do it. That's probably the biggest plot hole of the film, and
Mm,
one of the bits where the script doesn't really show. Um,
mm.
but again, I really liked their design as well. There was sort of a faction of guys that Egyptians, and they had like cool facial tattoos and their robes and big swords, and yeah, they did. The costuming was really good.
Yeah, I think a big part is like the practical stuff. I appreciate. I prefer practical effects to CGI effects. It just looks better. It'll date better. It'll always, it'll like aging wise, it'll look better. It won't ever look dated. Whereas CGI can date very quickly, very easily. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really wanted to mention about this film.
I have a borderline schizophrenic note written down, but I want to talk about it anyway, so just bear with me. The I really liked the scene where they move all the light through the mirrors and stuff like that underneath the pyramid. It's almost a trope at this point. But in watching that, I realized that's how cameras work to a certain extent as well. And I just thought that was kind of cool. So I want to mention that. And then I have one other note that I wanted to bring up. What was it? Oh, just that yeah, in speaking of the costuming, the sort of rebuilding of Imhotep and how he sort of goes from being a very like corpsey looking mummy to a real man. And at one point he has a death mask on when he meets one of the characters very early in the film. And I just love a good like face death mask, like sort of King Baldwin in Kingdom of Heaven sort of look. And I just thought that looked really hard and really good. And yeah, I don't know, overall, like, again, we'll go back to that ebook quote. Like, there are like a lot of like script problems and like sort of, issues of just like a blockbuster movie. But like, it's got movie magic, it's got proper blockbuster magic. So it's worth watching just for that. Probably even 7 out of 10. to be frankly honest. Like I did really enjoy it. I know that it's got issues and it's sort of kept
Mm.
in places, but and yeah, the action was good, the cast was good. They actually did their like historical legwork, which is a crazy thing to say about such a silly bloody movie. So yeah, I got to give it 7 out of 10.
I'd give it a 6. Yeah, I didn't have any real problems with it. I didn't have a bad time like watching it. I watched it with my mum because she is a big fan of these movies. But it's also not a film that I feel like I need to watch again. Like that I have that with movies sometimes where I'm like, that wasn't bad by any means. I didn't have like any issues with it, didn't dislike it, but it also is like doesn't have a lot for me to be like, well, I need to revisit that in the future.
Yeah, which is understandable. Like I'm definitely when my kid's like, 12 or 10, I'll definitely watch it with her. I think that'd be great. I think it's a good.
But yeah, they did a couple sequels to this month. They did The Mummy Returns, which I also watched. It wasn't great. I think it was, it was honestly, when I was watching The Mummy Returns, I kind of felt like this is basically as good as the first one. And then the third act happens, and you've got CGI The Rock in there, and it's just not very good. Um,
And I
and
do
there's
feel
also
like a third act for this kind of film does actually make or break it a little bit. And I do think the 99 film had a pretty good third act. Like overall, I thought it was pretty like satisfying. It ticked all the boxes. The action was good. You know what I mean? It had all the characters came together. Like, yeah, I liked it.
mm, so I mean, I'd give The Mummy Returns 5 out of 10, just because the third act just drags it down so much, and it's not particularly great. And then they did The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which I have not seen, but I've heard is also not particularly good. It looks like Jet Li is in this one as the main villain. It looks like. But they are apparently working on a fourth one. They're like in the process of making The Mummy 4 with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and John Hannah all going to be in it. Um, because Brendan Fraser's, had this big career resurgence now, so they can probably be like, well, we can justify making this now because people, he's in movies again and, hasn't, he's been after, being blacklisted from the industry for a period and having all his
And
personal
that
problems.
That raises a very interesting question, right? Because I didn't know they were doing that. And also, I'm looking at the poster of the Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and Brendan Fraser is holding two swords. So it appears whether it's pistols or swords, he's always dual wielding. So
Yeah,
good
he's
for him.
always dual wielding. Yeah.
But I wonder if they would go down the path of sort of Indiana Jonesing it, which I didn't even watch the last Indiana Jones. I'm just so done with franchises that should have been laid out to pasture like decades ago. We
Yeah,
should do a whole episode on that. That's something I could talk about just on its own for ages. But
yeah.
I
Indiana
I do
Jones should have
wonder.
ended at 3, to be honest. As much as
Yes,
I didn't hate Dial of Destiny, I didn't hate 5, but honestly, I kind of you only really need the first 3. Like, I mean, I could even skip Temple of Doom, to be honest. I'm fine with just Raiders and Lost Crusade. I'm gonna be honest here, but
no, fair. But I do wonder if they'll go down that sort of like, oh, Brendan Fraser's old now kind of route, or if they would actually have the cojones to just do like a good old fashioned adventure movie.
mm,
Like because some adventure movies do well. That Jumanji movie that came out a while ago, it did well. I didn't even watch it. I don't know if it was good or not, but it did very well. And I've heard people like even people who like movies be like, no, it was a good movie. So I don't know, but I do wonder if they would have the stones to just make like a sort of movie in the spirit of the 99 film, or if it'll be more in the spirit of the 2019 film. It'll be interesting to see.
yeah, it's interesting to see what they're going because they're getting Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz back. it's being directed by the guys who did the Ready or Not films. They did Screams 5 and 6. Um, so I'm interested to see what they do. Because also, like, Brendan Fraser, he's 57 now, so he's not like the same leading man, you know. Um,
Oh, I'd still happily watch him like pop, whole armies worth of people with nothing but two like military issue pistols from the 30s. Thank you. I'm still
yeah,
down. Old
and
badass old man is a good trope.
mm, uh, and it says it's expected to continue from The Mummy Returns to fix the continuity issues of the third installment. So they're gonna ignore Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Apparently, if that is to be believed, they're gonna ignore the third one and just say, "Nah, that doesn't count. We're gonna pretend like that one didn't happen," which
So
is
Weeb Fraser is not canon, is what you're telling
apparently
me.
not. Apparently
Oh,
not. No.
a shame.
Um, but yeah, I'd give Mummy Returns. I'd give it a yeah. I said before a 5 out of 10. I think. And then there's the 2017 Tom Cruise Mummy. I only watched this yesterday. And I remember at the time, it got a lot of hate. People did not like it. People acted like it's like one of the worst films ever made. I'm just looking here, a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was nominated for 8 Razzie Awards, which the Razzies are total shite, but still, 8 nominations is insane. Only
Yeah,
beaten
that's a lot.
by 50 Shades Darker and Transformers: The Last Night. Um, it's just
Let's
insane.
go.
That's just
Oh,
absolutely insane. And it won Worst Actor for Tom Cruise,
that's all
but
right. He's got enough Scientology connections to keep in work, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
yeah. Yeah, so I went in, I mean, with very low expectations because I'd heard how bad it was and how much everyone didn't like it. Um, and I'm just looking here. It's directed by Alex Kurtzman, who I believe is he basically in charge of Star Trek now? Like he's like Star Trek is basically what he runs.
I feel like yes, which sort of makes sense. I wonder, did he do Into Darkness?
I'm just looking here.
That Star Trek film?
Yeah, he did the 2009 Star Trek, and he did Into Darkness. And then he's
Yeah,
been
that's
sort
your
of,
problem. There's your problem right there.
and then he's basically the showrunner of like all the recent start like Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, Starfleet Academy. Like he's basically run it like the show
Oh.
producer or creator in some way on all of those shows. I mean, I'm gonna be
Mm,
honest. His Star Trek films, like as films, are all right. As Star Trek films, though, I don't think like they're not like Star Trek. Like
yeah, see,
they're
that's the
not Star
thing. And
Trek.
like,
Like
yeah,
I haven't
I
watched them in a while though. Like I'd have to rewatch them to really be able to give an opinion on them. But my memory is they're just like big action films, which Star Trek isn't
yeah, especially
traditionally.
and I'm not nostalgic for Star Trek. Like I only watched it a few years back. I watched most of Next Generation. I'm still saving the end of the last season for when a mate of mine gets back to Australia because we were watching it together. And it's a great show. It genuinely holds up. It is like more thought provoking and like it actually has stuff to say on things, and sometimes it comes across as a little bit shallow, but it's a really good show, and I understand why Trekkies exist, right? So yeah, when you say it's like it's a good movie but it's not Star Trek, then that's like that's a problem, you know?
Also, I don't believe this was Alex Kurtzman, but one of the writers of the other Star Trek films is Roberto Orci. He's Mexican, so I'm gonna assume it's pronounced like that, which is maybe very wrong of me. Is apparently a big he passed away fairly recently actually, was a big proponent of the 9/11 truthers, like believing that it was like a like that it was basically staged and by the government. So it's a whole can of worms that we don't need to open because we'll be here forever if we talk about it. But yeah, I'm just looking at, so yeah, Alex Kurtzman, he directed this. It's got 3 writers on the script. That's not usually a good sign. The more writers you have on a film, I feel like it's just gonna be messy. Like the more
Depends on
writers
the
you have,
film.
it depends on the
Um,
film. But the
The
writers they
Lord of the
had,
Rings had 3 writers, but that's sort of a very different situation.
yeah, David Koepp, who did like Jurassic Park and uh, Spider-Man, Toy Soldiers, Carlito's Way, the first Mission Impossible, Panic Room, War of the Worlds, is a writer on it. I think he's a solid writer. We've got Christopher McQuarrie, who I guess is probably most well known now for being the director of like the last 4 Mission Impossible movies. Yeah, I wrote Edge of Tomorrow, which is a great film, which they are still trying to do a sequel to. Which I'm just like, at this point, just can it, guys. We're not gonna get another one. just say now. We're not gonna. We can't get it done. But yeah, it's 2017 one. It's look, it was not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Like, it wasn't good, but I think I prefer it to The Mummy Returns. Um, but it's not like it's not great. I mean, do you know anything about this film, or are you aware of the Dark
No.
Universe?
Oh, is it a Dark Universe film?
This was the
Uh,
Yeah, this was gonna be the start of the Dark Universe.
they're putting
They
together a team.
Yeah. There's an amazing picture that I need to find to send to you, where
Oh, is it the
it's
one of all the cast
yeah,
members?
it's all the cut yeah with Tom Cruise, Javier Bardem, Johnny Depp, Russell Crowe, and a woman who
Who is
I def-
Javier Bardem gonna be?
he was gonna be. It says here was cast in the role of Frankenstein's monster,
Oh, there you go. There you
which
go.
they were gonna do for some reason. They were gonna do a Bride of Frankenstein film first. They were gonna do a Bride of Frankenstein film and then a Frankenstein film with Angelina Jolie as the Bride of Frankenstein, which that is good casting. To be fair, that does actually make a lot of sense as like a casting choice. But
Still, yeah,
yeah, so
that
they
Dark
this
Universe
was
didn't
to
really
be
manage to
no,
get
this was to
ground
be the
though, did it?
beginning of the Dark Universe. They had a Wolfman film. The studio had been interested in casting Dwayne Johnson as the Wolfman, which is insane. That is absolutely insane. They had a Creature from the Black Lagoon film with Scarlett Johansson considered for a role in it. An Invisible Man film with Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man. They were going to do Hunchback of Notre Dame, which it doesn't make any sense, by the way, because all these other films are like modern, like set in modern times, except for Hunchback of Notre Dame, which like kind of has to be set. I don't remember like when it's set exactly, but not in modern day. I mean, you could like change it to be modern day, but I don't know why you'd do that. They were going to do a Van Helsing film with Channing Tatum in the lead role. Oh god.
The
And
the But no, to excuse the dad pun, I think we've done a pretty good job of unwrapping these mummy films. I
um
think we've got over
yeah,
it.
there's just a couple things I want to say about this 2017 one. So they've got Russell Crowe in there as Jekyll and Hyde, which is a
Tom
choice.
Cruise should have been Jekyll and Hyde.
I think Tom Cruise could have worked very well in that. And there's this amazing moment in the film where Russell Crowe says to Tom Cruise, "You might be a younger man, but you still got something to learn." And Tom Cruise is older than Russell Crowe. Like, Tom Cruise is older than Russell Crowe, but he's supposed to be this, and like he doesn't look like a young man. Like Tom Cruise looks like a very middle-aged man, but he's we're supposed to treat him like he's this young 20-something-year-old.
To be fair,
Like
I do bet Russell Crowe looks pretty old. I bet he looks,
I mean,
he's got the beer
he's
age
got
penalty.
yeah, he's got the gray in the beard and everything. Yeah, so he definitely has he definitely looks old, like just superficially with the gray. Yeah, but apparently, yeah, that infamous photo with Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise and all that was all photoshopped. Like they couldn't get all five of them together in one room. They just took them all separately and photoshopped them all in together, which like is just such just. I mean, I get they're big stars, but like also like the way this is because from what I've read, like from my understanding, Tom Cruise and his team sort of came in and made changes to the film. Like they'd had it, they had like done a script and everything for it, and then Tom Cruise and his team sort of came in to make him to sort of change it up. Is what I've heard happened. I don't know what the like actual story is, but they apparently had to make tons of changes. And apparently it says Tom Cruise, I'm just reading here, Tom Cruise wielded nearly complete creative oversight on the film. Cruise was said to have felt like the real director of The Mummy by handling the action sequences and micromanaging the overall project when Kurtzman struggled to handle the scope of the film. Then, yeah, they got Christopher McQuarrie and Dylan Kussman were enlisted, along with one or two other writers that would transform the screenplay into a fully fledged Tom Cruise vehicle, subsidizing Butella's role whilst bringing Cruise to the forefront. So he wasn't even meant to be the protagonist of the film, really. And apparently Universal was not happy with this, but they didn't do anything about it. They just let Tom Cruise completely change the whole film. Yeah, this seems like it's such a weird choice because this is to be the start of a franchise. Tom Cruise isn't going to be in all these films. Like he's too big to be in all of these films, so it's just such a faulty idea from the get-go. And I think uh, it made it didn't work out because it failed and killed this entire Dark Universe instantly. And so they've just been doing monster movies that aren't connected to each other, like they did Invisible Man and Wolfman, but they're their own separate things. I don't understand why it's so hard for studios to figure out a plan before they go into making like of trying to make a franchise. Like, come on, just figure this all out. I mean, I give it a 5 out of 10, but like I said, I think it's better than The Mummy Returns, but like it's not good. And I don't know. I would like well, I mean, we're doing this episode to tie into the release of the upcoming Lee Cronin The Mummy. I think the title is Lee Cronin's The Mummy, I guess, so people don't get confused with like the Brendan Fraser one. Because I do wonder how many people are gonna go see this thinking it's a Brendan Fraser mummy film and be disappointed. Like I am interested in seeing
Yeah.
what happens with that. I'm not I yeah, I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about this film. I've seen the trailers, they look alright. But also I just am sort of like, well, trailers like I don't know. I don't to be fair, I don't actively watch trailers for things because I'm like, well, I'm gonna go see that. So I don't need to like see the trailer. I don't know if have you seen any of the trailers or marketing for it?
No, no, actually, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. I mean, yeah, it's definitely not going to be even like an action adventure movie
No,
by the looks of
it
it. It
seems
looks
like
like a
they're definitely
straight up
going
horror
for the
movie.
horror, which I
Blumhouse Bros. Yep.
well, yeah, which to be honest, I don't mind. I kind of think it could be interesting to try and make like a legitimately scary mummy film. And I think Lee Cronin is a very solid director. I really liked his Evil Dead film he did, even though it's one of the weakest Evil Dead films. I still really liked it. His other film, The Hole in the Ground, I thought was really solid. So I think he's very good. He's a very solid director. He's also the writer on it, so that does give me a bit more faith in it. And
That is
also,
always a good sign.
yeah, that is a good sign. And because Blumhouse, I feel like they probably there's not going to be as many eyes looking over his shoulder, being like, "Oh, mate, you need to do that," because like Blumhouse, as a production company, they're not as they don't seem to micromanage as much. They sort of let directors, do their shit, and
Yeah,
not
they should
get in
just
the
let
way
him
too much.
cook.
I think that's again a problem with films nowadays is too many studios just like have to oversee everything and just get involved in everything, and films just suffer because of that. Um, Again, this is for like the bigger studios though. Um, but I mean, I'm definitely I'm interested in seeing what they do with it because I don't like. I mean, I hope it's good. I mean, that's what I hope for most films. That's I don't go in. I always go into films hoping for good films. And sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't. Um,
But
but
no, I
I
do think it's a fair thing to try and like it's not something that it's like, oh, why would they do this as like a horror movie? Like it checks
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Like yeah, it could be
exactly.
good.
Yeah, and they're not trying to cash in on the title of the Mummy like they are because it being straight horror is it's very going to be very tonally different to the Brendan Fraser stuff. So it's not like it's even trying to do what that film tried to do. It's going to be its own completely separate thing, which I think is good. I think them making the choice to go for something different and to make a different kind of film, I think is gonna hopefully work out for them. And also because it's a much smaller film, it's probably gonna give them a healthy box office return because it's probably didn't cost them a whole lot to make. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be interested to see how they do this, see if they can make it like actually scary. Because I don't find like many horror films that scary, so I'm always surprised when I find one that I do find actually kind of scary.
Yeah, the setting and everything has the potential for it, right?
Mm,
Like there's the undead are eternally spooky, and mummies are a type of undead. But
mm.
yeah, no, I was definitely pleasantly surprised by the 99 film, and the 32 film. Yeah, look, it was of its time, but I did
Yeah,
enjoy it.
it is of its time, but you can't be too harsh on a film from the 30s. You gotta just take it as it is. Um, but I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. Is there sort of any final things you would like to say?
No, just that I enjoyed it, and the Fraser Renaissance is well earned, and we should definitely do an Apocalypto episode.
Thank you, Dylan, again for joining me for this week's episode.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me. Always happy to occasionally come on and have a chat about film. It's good.
Um, and yeah, thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.